Good evening. Welcome to North West Tonight with Ian Haslam. Our top story. Not ready. The region's new £365 million arena has its opening delayed just 24 hours before the first show. There were problems at Saturday's test event, and Peter Kay's shows tomorrow and Wednesday have been put back to next week. Also tonight, Lucy Letby's latest attempt to overturn her murder convictions is heard at the Court of Appeal in London. Who runs 26 miles like this? The story behind one of yesterday's most striking London Marathon costumes. The semi-final success that felt like a defeat. United fans fume despite their Wembley win.
And while some of us have seen cloudy skies and rain, the Isle of Man and Cumbria have had some decent spells of sunshine. Can we expect more for all parts tomorrow? Well, join me at the end of the programme and I'll give you all the details.
Well, it's Britain's biggest arena and was due to hold its first official show tomorrow night. But Manchester's new Co-op Live has had to postpone its first two events featuring Bolton comedian Peter Kay because it's not ready. The £365 million venue held a test event on Saturday but experienced problems. Officials there say work on its power supply is a few days behind schedule and has apologised for any inconvenience caused, as Paresh Patel reports.
Rick Astley performing on Saturday night at the Co-op Live Arena. Although a test concert, thousands of fans expected a night to remember, but many were left disappointed. It was a chance for Britain's biggest and newest venue to test all systems ahead of Peter Kay's planned show for tomorrow, which has now been postponed. Friday, 11,000 free tickets for this gig were given away by Ticketmaster, but just hours before the start on Saturday, thousands got an email to say their tickets were cancelled.
Very frustrated as well because made plans which had cancelled to go to the event, and I was just extremely upset and disappointed by the way that it was done, you know, less than 24 hours after they released the tickets.
There were others who had not read their emails and gone to the venue only to be turned away at the door. Management say power problems cut off critical communications to the fire and emergency services, forcing them to cut the attendance to just 4,000. But there were still concerns for those who did get in. One man said going to the overcrowded toilet, he had to swerve around a yellow cable dangling from the ceiling.
It feels like the arena's quite a bit away from being ready to have full capacity. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Peter Kay gig doesn't go ahead, or if it does, it wouldn't surprise me if there are some issues there.
There have been media reports that the Co-op Live building was not properly certified. Manchester City Council says certain aspects of this building have yet to be finished, and that's why a practical completion certificate has not been issued. But he wants to stress that if management here can show a mitigation strategy to manage the potential risk to the public relating to those outstanding works, then it can decide whether or not to open. At midday today, Co-op Live's management made this announcement. Regretfully, we have made the difficult decision to reschedule our two opening performances by Peter Kay. These dates will move from Tuesday the 23rd of April and Wednesday the 24th to Monday the 29th of April and Tuesday the 30th. Peter Kay's issued a statement saying, "I'm truly gutted as I know how disappointing this will be for everyone with tickets. But obviously, it's a brand new venue and it's important that everything is finished and safe for a full capacity audience. Fortunately, we've been able to reschedule the shows to next week. But that's no consolation to some of the bitterly disappointed fans who cannot attend the rescheduled shows. Among them, Scouse John, who's written on X that he's destined not to see his comedy hero. We were due to see him tomorrow. Now, because Manchester's new arena is not ready, it's been moved to next week and we are on holiday. This is the second time we were due to see him, only for it to be cancelled." Paresh Patel, BBC North West Tonight, Manchester.
An expert witness has told a jury that strapping a baby to a beanbag-style chair was unsafe and caused the infant's death at a nursery in Stockport. Its former deputy manager, Kate Ruffley, denies the manslaughter of 9-month-old Genevieve Meehan. Her trial today heard from a Home Office pathologist, and our reporter Mairead Smith was inside Manchester Crown Court.
The jury here at Manchester Crown Court has already seen CCTV footage of Kit Ruffley swaddling baby Genevieve Meehan and placing her face down to sleep on a beanbag-style chair that she was strapped to with a blanket placed on top of her. The jury saw the baby cry and struggle, and 90 minutes passed before Kate Ruffley realised that the baby wasn't breathing. Today, the Home Office pathologist Dr. Philip Lum gave evidence to the jury, and he said that 9-month-old Genevieve died from a combination of asphyxiation and the pathophysiological stress of an unsafe sleeping environment. That was a Mama Baba baby beanbag. Dr. Lum told the jury there was no evidence of natural disease that contributed to the death, and he spoke about the struggle Genevieve Meehan would have endured as she tried to breathe. He told the jury the baby had signs of reddening and grazing around her mouth and chin. In his opinion, Genevieve Meehan died from asphyxia imparted by upper airway obstruction, and added that the stress of struggling to breathe and overheating led to her death. 37-year-old Kate Ruffley denies the charges against her. The trial here continues tomorrow morning.
Some of today's other news now, and a man's been fined £800 and banned from football matches for 3 years after tragedy chanting at the FA Cup game between Manchester United and Liverpool last month. Michael Bernard Avery from Manchester admitted the public order events. He was also made to pay a £320 victim surcharge. A primary school in Liverpool had to close after a car crashed through a wall and into the building this morning. No children were hurt in the incident. It happened at Beacon Church of England Primary School in Everton, but the driver and passenger were taken to hospital with minor injuries. And the Lancaster to Barrow rail route has reopened exactly a month after a train came off the tracks near Grangeover Sands. Trains are running again after repairs to a damaged embankment and a hole beneath the track. 8 people escaped injury when an early morning service derailed. Lucy Letby, the nurse who murdered 7 babies at the Countess of Chester Hospital, has today asked a court for permission to appeal against her convictions. Last August, Letby was also found guilty of attempting to murder 6 other babies in Chester in 2015 and 16. Well, our reporter Andy Gill has been following the proceedings remotely, and he's with me now. Andy, what is Lucy Letby asking the Court of Appeal?
Well, Ian, Lucy Letby is serving 14 whole life sentences for the murders and attempted murders of babies she was caring for at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Shortly after her conviction last summer, she applied for permission to appeal. But early this year, a single judge, turned that down on the basis of a review of documents. Today is her second chance to ask if she can have an appeal. It's down at the Appeal Court in London, 3 judges listening to oral arguments from her lawyers, also from lawyers opposed to her having an appeal. This is not an appeal itself. She's asking for permission from the court to go ahead with an appeal against her convictions.
And what can we say about what's been said in court today, Andy?
Not a lot is the short answer, and that's because the Court of Appeal has imposed a reporting restriction on the details of this hearing that's happening over 3 days this week. In June this year, coming up, Lucy Letby is facing a retrial on 1 count of alleged attempted murder against the baby girl in February 2016. That's a charge she denies. The trial is going to take place at Manchester. Because of that retrial, the Court of Appeal today has said we can't really report any details of what the judges are hearing in London this week. We can say one thing, that is that she's challenging her convictions on 4 grounds, and all these turn on arguments that the judge in her original trial in Manchester wrongly refused some legal applications by her defence. As well as all these court hearings, also don't forget there's a public hearing into what happened at Chester. That's going to start, we think, in the autumn.
OK, Andy, thank you very much for that update. Andy Gill reporting there in the studio. Now, for 35 years, Dina Peacock couldn't understand why she felt constantly exhausted, unwell and depressed after repeated trips to her GP. The now 60-year-old from Warrington was eventually told she'd contracted the potentially fatal hepatitis C virus. She's one of 30,000 victims infected by contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 80s, and this is Dina's story.
I found out in 2017, and that was through my doctor. My liver function wasn't very good. So he insisted I had a Hep C blood test, and I said, why? When I'm pregnant, surely you test for Hep C. And he says, no, we don't. I had blood in 1980. At the time, I was told, you're a new mum, you're going home. We recommend you have blood rather than the iron tablets, just so you be fit and energetic to look after your baby. 1982, I had another child and ended up forceps with him as well, which meant I had blood again, recommended. So he tested me for Hep C and it came back that I had Hep C. So I was so shocked. Then everything just fell into place. All the years of being tired and getting brushed off and saying, go away, there's nothing up with you. Then there was the trauma of me thinking, well, I've had Hep C. I could have passed it on to the rest of the children. So then I had to tell them one by one, you need to get tested because you might have Hep C. I might have given you Hep C. Some took it okay, others were a bit worried and concerned to the impact it would have on them and their life. But luckily for me, none of them have got Hep C. In the meantime, I'd only just got married to Dave. You know, he's such a support. He could have walked away, he didn't walk away, and I'm so lucky for that. I've had treatment for Hep C, so it's undetectable at the minute, but it's left me with various health conditions, the worst one being fibromyalgia for me, IBS, gastro problems, Barrett's esophagus, severe anxiety and depression. I've met loads of people with going down to the inquiry, and every story is different, but we're all similar in the way we've been infected and the way we've been treated. The government need to stop playing with our lives for politics and just do right by people. It's kind of like a dirty little secret that you bury down. And I tell people now, at first I was very embarrassed and ashamed, but if I can save one person through them getting tested, then I'm open about it. I've gone through the drama and the trauma of it all now.
Yes, she's been through some tough times, hasn't she? A public inquiry into the blood scandal started back in 2019 and is due to report back in May. The government have said they're clear that justice needs to be delivered for the victims and say they've accepted the moral case for compensation. Well, the 2024 London Marathon took place yesterday with more than 50,000 people taking part. Speaking as someone who's only ever managed a half marathon, the Great North Run, I was in my 20s as well, I can't imagine running the full 26 miles. And obviously, it's even more difficult for those who do it in costumes, like colorectal surgeon Emma Davis from Royal Lancaster Infirmary, who joins us in the studio now. Apologies in advance if you're eating your tea. Emma ran as a giant poo emoji, as you do.
Yes, as you do.
As you do.
As you do.
How are you feeling, Emma? That's a long distance.
It's a long distance and there's a lot of wind resistance when you're in an inflatable poo. But yeah, it was an absolute ball. The crowd were incredible and I got lots of choice comments along the way.
Oh, there you are, dressed as a poo. No, that's glorious, actually. What time did you do it in, incidentally?
I did it in 5 hours
Yeah.
with a few little stops and a little...
Toilet breaks.
Toilet breaks, exactly.
Yeah.
But there were occasions where I was running a little bit faster than other people and I thought, well, you're getting overtaken by a giant poo here. This is...
Yeah, that's demeaning
it
to
is
people,
demeaning,
isn't it,
yeah.
frankly? Tell me about your wacky costume, because we see things like this every year, don't we? But what made you decide to do it as a giant poo?
Well, I work with people with bowel disease every day and I see the impact it has on people's lives. And when I decided to do it for charity, for Bowel Research UK, I thought, well, what better way of raising awareness than to run in a patently ridiculous outfit? So yeah, that was my reason.
And you raise money for Bowel Research UK, and you're also hoping to, like you said, raise awareness and make people, completely aware of this, because not everybody does, of course. There are so many charities.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. And Bowel Research UK are quite a good charity because they fund research into bowel cancer, but also some other bowel diseases as well that perhaps people don't know quite so much about, like Crohn's disease, colitis, diverticular disease, all of which can make people really quite poorly.
Yeah, and tell me about your training, because I believe you did that in full costume around Lancaster. How did that go down on the streets of the city?
Yeah, so not all of my training, but yeah, the last couple of weeks I was doing runs around Williamson Park, and yeah, I got some choice looks, comments, a few people phoning me or recording me on their phones as I went past. My children, one of them would come with me, one of them had no interest at all, just too embarrassing.
How good is the support when you're there? How much
It's
does it encourage you on?
amazing. It is amazing. Yeah, I mean, there was one bit where I was going round a corner and you've just got literally probably 100 odd people shouting, poo, poo, go on, poo. And I mean, if that doesn't spur you on, nothing will.
Normally it'd be an insult. But
Well, yeah, exactly. No, it was fine.
It was a huge compliment. Listen,
Yeah.
well done, Emma. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was great. And have an ice bath or a few more ice baths. I don't know what people do. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. OK, well, we've got sport with Richard shortly. But before that, some encouraging news for people who've had a stroke, the results of which, of course, can be very much life-changing. But a new rehabilitation group in Merseyside is aiming to not only build back patients' physical strength, but also their mental well-being and social lives. What started off as a pilot scheme has now, for many, become a lifeline. And Katie Walderman joined them on a weekly walk around Mill Dam Park in Kirkby.
Come rain or shine, well, mostly rain at the moment, these 2-hour weekly walks have become a lifesaver for some members. Like Mavis and like John, who both had strokes last year.
You're all in there in the same thing and you're all helping each other. We all understand each other. And that's a big thing to be part of it. It's so important.
So what benefits have you noticed, John, since coming to the group?
Well, it's given me confidence to go out running again. I've seen people in this group who came in wheelchairs and now they're walking out of here to the chair. Everybody's improving, you can see that.
How did you feel, Mavis, when you were first told that you'd had a stroke?
I think the world came crashing in around me. It was horrible.
Mavis has been coming to the group now since October.
Without this, I wouldn't be getting out. It is a lifeline. And I do look forward to coming. The friendship, the banter, and yet your confidence is built up.
The Walk to Health group started as a trial by the Liverpool University Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust, but 10 months on, just like the patients it's helping, it's gone from strength to strength.
We underestimate actually the mood and the well-being side of it. So when we set it up as a physical activity, we talked about physio and physical activity, but the psychological impact has been really beneficial. We've seen better mood, better well-being.
Everyone's ability is different, but on average, patients walk 2,600 steps per session. That's roughly around 1.7 kilometres. But members say they can really feel the benefits.
I had a stroke. Sorry.
Okay.
It's a fantastic group, it is. All the people, all the staff.
You get encouragement and also you get feedback from other people who've been in the same situation as you.
Afterwards, I was about 20% of myself. Now I'm about 95% of my normal self.
My husband had a stroke 12 months ago, March, and he was really, really bad. And he's now in the fastest walking group.
After the walk, it's back to the cafe for coffee and cake and a quiz to also keep the brain active.
I need a clue.
What started off as a walk and a brew is now an important piece in their stroke rehabilitation. Katie Walderman, BBC North West Tonight, Kirkby.
What a great initiative that is. As you can see, I'm now joined by the region's favourite sportscaster.
Very
Richard
low
Askham.
bar, mate, very low bar.
It is a low bar, yes, you're right. We've got another All-Manchester FA Cup final to look to. United got there, having watched it, brilliant game it was. I don't know how they got there, but they did.
Nor me, Ian. It was an extraordinary match, wasn't it? You know, it just went one way than the other. Even though United won through to the finals, had a lot of fans scratching their heads. 3-0 up against the Championship's Coventry City. It fell apart for the Reds at Wembley, who finally got through on penalties. A performance that threw up a lot more questions than answers for the United faithful.
Manchester United will be coming back to Wembley in May.
Manchester United will be, but they got there by the skin of their teeth after a 3-0 stroll turned into a game that very nearly ran away from them. with Coventry City coming back to make it 3-3, and but for the most marginal and controversial of offside calls, would have won it 4-3 in extra time. A tough watch for the United faithful.
Unbelievable, to a shock, everything.
Poor, really. I think Coventry deserved to go through.
I was nervous the whole game because knowing United, they can bottle it. But we are a good side, and we just need to know that.
United, who'd scored through McTominay, Maguire and Fernandes, seemed to lose direction and drive as the match wore on, but hung on for penalties and kept their nerve to sneak through. Rasmus Højlund with the decisive spot kick.
To manage the team better, and yeah, it's a shared responsibility.
Manchester United will be back here in May.
Something missing in the culture of the club.
The team, it just needs strengthening up a little bit, I think, in defenders wise, yeah.
I love United. I believe they can do it, but they need to fix some things.
There are so many questions, aren't there, after yesterday's crazy final, but it wasn't only vital for Manchester United's season as a whole that they've got to the final at Wembley, but for the manager Erik ten Hag as well. With all the changes that are going on at the club, he will need no reminder just how important it is that they take the next step and win that trophy.
With the new ownership or new ownership structure, there's going to be questions as to whether they want to keep the same manager because they didn't appoint Erik ten Hag. They might have different ideas than Erik ten Hag, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. If you're Erik ten Hag, though, what you'd want to do is make yourself not unsackable, make it hard for them to get rid of you by getting results from the team and hopefully winning something.
With a repeat of last season's all-Manchester showpiece, that will be very difficult, of course, against a City side who'll be determined to defend their trophy in a final with an awful lot at stake. Manchester City women stormed to the top of the WSL table with a thumping 5-0 win against West Ham. It was the Blues' 13th league victory in a row. Leila Ouahabi scoring the opening goal inside the first minute. Finally, good news in rugby union as well, with Sale Sharks right back in the Premiership playoff mix, Ian, after a 37-31 win over Harlequins.
Rich, that was wonderful. Thank you very much, my friend. Well, it's Earth Day today. I didn't know that. But an annual campaign to highlight the importance of protecting the planet. On the Isle of Man, a giant globe has gone on display to get people thinking about how their actions can do just that. Ashley Tracy went to see it in Douglas.
She's toured the world, but now Gaia is on display on the Isle of Man. The artwork is a unique chance to see our planet floating in 3D and see the Earth as an astronaut would.
You can't imagine being in space to see something like that, but this is what you think it might look like.
It's ginormous.
It is ginormous.
It's just fab, isn't it? It's really exciting, something really different.
Gaia is huge. She is about 6 metres across, which is about 20 feet, and is made up of detailed images taken by NASA from space. The specially composed music features rockets taking off and astronauts talking to each other.
It is really amazing, and just seeing it slowly turning, especially when you stop and listen to the soundtrack as well, it's really very moving.
The artist Luke Jerram says he hopes the installation wows people, but also gets them talking about living in a more sustainable way. Thoughts backed up by the government's Net Zero campaign.
So I really hope that people feel empowered to take action, and this strikes a chord with people and they understand how precious life on Earth is and what we can do to save it.
For the future of the planet and the world, you know, it's in sort of the children's hands, really, isn't it? So them learning about it, and the earlier they do, the better, really. So stuff like this just brings it all to life.
So it's a very, very big and beautiful place that everyone should love and that we should all respect.
Gaia can be seen in St Thomas's Church until the 12th of May. Ashley Tracy, BBC North West Tonight in Douglas.
Excellent stuff. Look who's here. It's Marple mum, Kay Crewdson, no less. My dad was praising you the other day.
Was he?
He was talking you up, not in a creepy way, in a very good way.
Nice. Thanks, Dad.
So you're excellent, Colin. Yeah.
Miss Marple. Now then, weather-wise, today, it started off pretty poor, didn't it? I know on Friday I said there won't be loads of rain in the forecast, and then we had rain. what can you do? Cloudy skies. We've had some heavy rain and some drizzly bits as well. That's how it was in Bolton. Thank you, Keith. This is how it looked in Lancashire. Vicky sent this snap in. How are we doing for this week? Well, it's going to be cool, but decent dry weather for the next couple of days. So there's the fronts that are going to clear through overnight tonight. High pressure's still with us, but we're pulling down a northerly breeze. So cool air, but a lot of dry weather for the next couple of days. The rest of the rain will come later towards the end of the week. So overnight tonight, we will get clouds starting to clear. And we'll get the rain clearing as well. Temperature-wise, we'll drop down to between about 2 and 6 degrees. The breeze remains fairly gentle, but tomorrow, on the whole, it's looking really decent. In fact, tomorrow and Wednesday, both very similar days, dry and fine, good spells of sunshine, but it will feel cool in that northerly breeze. Temperatures below average, around about 12 degrees. Similar for Wednesday, that's the
Textbook
forecast.
stuff. You're a top weather forecaster, as you know, but today you've been teaching the next generation, I believe.
I have. I went to see the children at Adlington Primary School. They were incredible from years 1 through to years 4. And believe you me, Ian, these children, they're going to be taking your job. And maybe mine as well.
I've taken Rogers tonight. He's back tomorrow, I believe. Anyway, thank you very much, Kay. I'm back with the lates at 10:30 as well. Hopefully see you for that. But from me and Kay, bye-bye.
Take care.